What's your most awkward, "sorry, but I don't work here" experience? Made the mistake of wearing an orange t-shirt to Home Depot. I was approached 4 or 5 times walking back to the lumber section. The funny thing is the expression of confusion and denial on people's faces. I would say, "Oh, I don't work here, I just wore the wrong shirt today," and they would stare at me perplexed, wondering if I was messing with them. I was at a local thrift store, looking at old typewriters with my sister. They were very, very cheap, and she's a writer, so I was buying her one. There was a fellow there who heard me ask out loud a question about how it works. He was a nice old guy who came over and showed me the inner workings of the unit for a solid 50 to 60 minutes. He was very passionate about typewriters and had expert-level knowledge. After an hour of him showing me everything you could imagine with a typewriter and how they work, I asked a question about the price. He responds with, "Well, I don't know about that because I don't work here. I just like typewriters." He was probably lonely. There's an older gentleman who used to be a professional photographer but had to retire due to being constrained to a wheelchair. He hangs around our camera displays a few hours every week and talks to people about cameras. He's so knowledgeable and so enthusiastic that no one's complained since he started doing it over a year ago. I was at a local computer and game store, and this elderly gentleman asked me where they put the controllers for PS3. I told him, "Sorry, I don't work here, so I don't really know." He said, "Seriously, why would you even work here if you don't know where anything is, dummy?" 10 out of 10 would go to that store again. Imagine the asinine people the folks who do work here have to put up with then. Source: I work at a video game store. I was browsing movies at HMV when a lady came up to me and asked if I had Star Wars on Blu-ray. I was like, "Yeah, of course, they're my favorites." Then she asks where they are. At my house." That's when I realized she thought I worked there and wasn't just wanting to talk about Star Wars. I was in the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, a very busy store. I asked the shop owner something and he just said, "Give me a plastic bag," which I did. I understand Turkish. Then I helped him for a couple of minutes putting things in bags. I was just trying to help since he was really stressed out. He apologized so many times when he realized I wasn't one of his employees, and he gave me a discount. I mean, what was that guy's employee turnover that he didn't recognize whether someone in his shop was an employee or not? Or is this a one of those faces issue? In 2004, I worked at a Petco that was right next to a Best Buy, so the same blue shirt and khakis, only different logos. I went over to pick up a game right after work and got sucked into a chat with a guy about picking out a laptop. After 10 minutes of going through the pros and cons of various brands, he decides he'd like to get one. I was just like, "Cool, well, good luck with that." I used to work in a bar that was about a 5-minute walk from Tesco, a grocery store. Every Saturday afternoon, the bar would hit a lull between 4 and 5, so I'd get sent to Tesco to pick up fruit, mint, and juice for the night. And seemingly every Saturday, some customer in Tesco would come up to me and mistake me for staff there. My work uniform didn't even look similar to the Tesco uniform. I've never understood it. The best case of mistaking me for someone who worked in Tesco was this. A woman who came up to me while I had my hands full of cartons of juice. She started complaining about the crappy service and unhelpful staff. I tried telling her that I didn't work there, but she kept cutting me off. Eventually, she demanded to speak to my manager. I responded with, "Oh, you'll have to go to the bar around the corner to speak to the manager. That's where she is." The woman looked shocked for a second, but then said, "Oh, well, that explains why this place is run like a poor excuse for a circus. Your manager is off in a bar drinking on the job. I should have guessed it." To which I responded, "No, I work in that bar, and I was sent here for stock. If you want to speak to my manager, you can go to my workplace and talk to her." She realized immediately the mistake she'd made and became much nicer and very apologetic to me. You know someone is a terrible person when you can see them transform so quickly from monster to angel. Then you just know that they abuse that ability and have the power to be a jerk to someone and convince everyone else that it's the other way around because they're always nice otherwise. When I was done working and had gotten back to my apartment, still in my mailman clothes, I was stopped by a woman asking me whether or not I had her package. I had to explain to her that I wasn't at work and that I'd been her neighbor the past 2 years. I was at dinner in a decent restaurant in LA. I was wearing a suit but had taken my jacket off and wasn't wearing a tie, so it was black shoes and pants and a white shirt. I went to the bathroom and was passing this table, and this guy grabbed my arm as I was walking past and said, "Sorry, could you find out where our wine is? We asked you ages ago." At this point, I hadn't realized I resembled the staff in this place and was a bit shell-shocked. So I said, "Sure," and went for a tinkle. On my way back, I thought I'd be a dutiful human being and go and tell the barman, as it was on my way, that this guy hadn't had his wine. The barman slapped his forehead and said, "Hang on," and gave me a glass of white to take to him, which I did and apologized for the delay, and the guy appreciated it too. Then I sat down and went on with my dinner. You probably broke a liquor law by doing that. You're nice, though. I was at Target right after work. I had on a red polo and khakis, and it had my company name embroidered on it that starts with a T. I was doing some network stuff, so I wasn't wearing my normal dress clothes. I forget what I was buying, but I had my cart full and my purse over my shoulder. A woman asked me where the laundry detergent was. I'm used to this, so I just told her that I think it's down a few aisles. The woman lost her ever-loving mind on me, saying that I was a horrible employee, I should know where everything is in my store, I'll never be paid above minimum wage because I'm so stupid. She wanted my name, my supervisor's name, and the number to corporate. It was after her rant that I politely informed her, "Ma'am, I don't work here. I was just telling you where I saw it while shopping for my own stuff." She didn't believe me and went to find a manager. I went to the checkout. I guess she found a manager and brought him to where I was checking out, started demanding that he reprimand me. He then informed her that I didn't in fact work there. She was flabbergasted and just walked away. No apology, no nothing. The manager, however, did apologize to me. I told him no problem, not his fault. You can't fix stupid. In conclusion, I no longer wear red polos to Target. Once I was at Walmart pretty late at night around 11. I think I was looking for cold medicine or something like that. Anyway, a woman who looks to be in her late 30s, I'm 20, comes up to me and shows me her child's school supply list, asking if I can help her find some portfolio folder or something. I was about to tell her that I didn't work there when I saw her daughter, who looked to be around 7 or 8, in one of the aisles peeking out and looking tired and a little nervous. I know how Walmart can be in terms of finding an employee to help you, so I decided to just stick around and helped them find everything on the list. I realized that neither of them spoke very much English, which made some of the items on the lists confusing. It took a good 20 minutes, but they were both really grateful and nice. I guess it's not really an awkward story like you asked for, but still a story. In conclusion, helped a non-English speaking woman and her daughter find school supplies at Walmart, even though I don't work there. Haha, well that sounds like something quite a few people I know would do out of sheer social anxiety rather than inherent niceness. Still pretty great of you though. A couple of weeks ago, I was at my local PetSmart chatting with the one guy there who actually knows his stuff. I have had a good deal of experience with aquariums, but I like to run my ideas by other people before I try them out. We were talking, but a customer came up, so he broke off to assist them. As I was standing there looking at the fish, an old woman walks up to me and asks about what kind of bowl and food she should get for her goldfish her grandson had brought home from the fair. I started to tell her that I didn't work there, but as I glanced around, the guy I was talking to and the other employee were busy. So it went kind of like this. I don't really… You know, the thing is, goldfish actually need a fairly large aquarium, so you should either get at least a 30-gallon setup with this filter and such, or if you don't want to invest that much, I'm sure the store would be more than happy to take it off your hands. If you'd like a more manageable fish, I'd recommend a better. Now, here are some good setups for them. Yada yada yada. I finish helping the old woman and immediately get another customer. At this point, I notice there's a mini rush as it's around 5ish, and people are stopping by after work. This other customer comes up to me and asks a question about what fish would work well in her son's guppy tank. At this point, I'm pretty much committed and I decide to help her too. Eventually, after about 25 minutes and several more customers, the crowd thins out and I go back to my conversation with the employee. I ended up helping PetSmart sell several fish and one aquarium that day. In conclusion, PetSmart customer mistakes me for employee. I assist customers for half an hour because I'm too awkward to correct her. When I was a teenager, I worked in Virgin Records, renamed to Virgin Megastores in the UK now. I'd finished my shift and I'd had a pretty terrible day. I was browsing to buy a couple of CDs to cheer myself up. A customer walked up to me and started asking questions. I'd dealt with customers all day, so I breezily responded, "Sorry, I don't work here." So the customer responds, "But you're wearing a Virgin uniform." There was a super awkward pause during which I could have easily said I'm off duty and about to leave, and recovered, but in panic said, "I just like to wear it," and I walked out of the store. You know those moments when years later you recall an awkward encounter and just shudder? That's my scumbag brain's go-to moment. I had a similar experience while working at HMV many years ago. I'd just finished a shift in the run-up to Christmas, so I slapped a jumper over my HMV t-shirt and started walking toward the door, when a customer decided that it'd be okay to block my path and demand to know if I worked there. I said yes, but I was no longer on the clock and that I'd be more than happy to direct her to one of my colleagues, who she'd see were all wearing visible HMV shirts. She insisted that I help her anyway, and when I told her no, she flipped her lid and told me she'd be speaking with the manager and that I should be fired. I still can't get over the sense of entitlement some people have.
You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe.
Around Christmas time, I was on my lunch hour, in my uniform, picking up some Christmas stuff. I was in a card shop and this man in his 60s hit me over the head with a wrapping paper roll as a joke, before apologizing profusely on realizing I was a customer there. Having said that, I don't know why that would ever be considered a thing to do to someone who you don't know, whether they work there or not. I never resolved it. I was 16 and awkward. I was at the PX trying to pick out a rotisserie chicken for dinner when a guy came up to me and began asking where a couple of items were located in the store. Knowing that new people were always incoming, I told him what aisles some of the items were in, but then I said I was sorry for not knowing where one or two of them were located. He then got mad at me and said I should know the layout of where I work, and he was about to walk away angrily when I stopped him. I let him know that the people who work at the store wore a certain uniform, and as I wasn't wearing one, I obviously didn't work there. He still seemed mad and said, "Well, if you didn't look like a stock worker, you wouldn't have had to deal with me asking you questions." And then he walked off. My brother was at Best Buy and was mistaken for an employee because he was wearing a blue shirt. The first time someone asked him where something was, he politely told them he didn't work there, but he did tell them where the product was. The second time this happened, he thought he'd have some fun and pretty much had this guy following him all around the store looking for something my brother had no clue where it was. The guy eventually asked, "Do you even work here?" My brother simply replied, "Nope." The guy stormed out of the store so fast, my brother just went back to what he was doing. One time, my best friend and I were in Walmart digging in the $5 movie bin. We're standing looking at all these crappy movies, hoping to find a gem, when this random lady walks up and asks if we work there. I say, "Sorry ma'am, no we don't," and we continue digging through the bin. Well, this wasn't good enough for this lady. She stands there and asks us something about finding volleyball equipment. I forget exactly what it was she was looking for specifically. I asked if she looked through the sporting goods, which she was standing right in front of, and she says, "Well, yes of course, but I didn't see it. I thought y'all would know where it would be." At this point, my friend and I are both a little frustrated with the situation, so I tell her that we have no idea where else the volleyball equipment would be at the store. I ask if she's gone to Dick's Sporting Goods. That's when all heck broke loose. She raised her voice and started yelling about how she wasn't going to spend that much money and ranting and raving about the cost difference and this and that. My friend and I just looked at each other and walked away. In conclusion, lady wants to know where volleyball equipment is in Walmart and then yells at my friend and I, neither of us work there, for suggesting that she look at a dedicated sporting goods store. The dress code for the company I worked for was this black pullover and the standard dress shoes and trousers. I usually walk up to Asda or Walmart for lunch and stood for about 5 minutes deciding which sweets or chocolate I should get. As I'm looking, I get a tap on the shoulder. There's a woman standing there and she begins shouting at me, "I have been standing here asking you for help for 5 minutes." I give a weird look and she realizes I don't work at Asda and she gets embarrassed and walks away. As I'm walking to the till, I notice someone who actually worked at Asda in kind of the same attire except for that they have an Asda in big green letters on their jumper. Finally, a place to share my stories. When I was younger, around 14, I used to go shopping with my mother, as I'm sure lots of people do. She told me to wait outside the store while she quickly went in, and I, coincidentally, was wearing a similar outfit to the store clerks. Blue top, grey pants. An older woman walked towards me and practically yelled out that she had gone online and found a product she wanted and demanded that I take her to it. I politely said that I didn't work there and that was the end of it, right? Wrong. She claimed that I had to work there. I was wearing the uniform. I tried to argue otherwise, but she just insisted that I work there, and she'll tell my manager. Eventually, my mum returned and we both left, but I still fill with rage at the thought of this woman. "Ma'am, I don't work here." "Yes, you do." "Oh, okay." A reality-defying level of will to be a Karen on display here. Magnificent and inspiring, a feat of imagination we can all aspire to. Not awkward, but helpful. I noticed every helper in this store was ignoring this elderly lady. I happened to be wearing the same color of shirt and she came up to me for help. I happily helped her and even helped her go to the checkout lane. She tells me I'm a good employee and will write a nice letter to the company about me. A little backstory first. When I was about 11 years old, I went with my family to Philadelphia Zoo. It was about 80 degrees out and little me decided to wear a hoodie for some reason. Of course, I get too hot and need to take it off, but I forgot to wear a shirt underneath, so my parents brought me a shirt that said Philadelphia Zoo on it. So my family and I are walking around the gift shop right before we were about to leave. Little me is checking out some sweet stuffed animals when a middle-aged woman comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder. "Excuse me," she says, "where can I find sunscreen?" I was kind of confused when she asked me, but I was happy to help since she asked politely. I quickly looked around and saw some non-souvenirs behind the counter. I'm guessing you can find it at the counter over there," I said. Then this woman gave me a look like she wasn't sure if I was intelligent or not. "So, you're just guessing?" she says. The way she said it made me realize something was off, but I didn't make the connection. Remember, I'm 11 fricking years old. "Yeah, I mean, there are batteries and stuff back there, so there should be sunscreen." She then gave me a quick smile and said, "Okay, thank you for your help." I didn't have a clue what happened until I told my dad what was happening as we were leaving. He started laughing and pointed out I was wearing the Philadelphia Zoo shirt, and this broad thought I'd worked there. My first day of class, someone thought I was a professor. I was only 20 and I didn't think I looked that old. "You've got to stop wearing the sweaters with the elbow pads, dude." I was on my break and decided to walk down the mall to the Bon, which is now Macy's. I was wandering around seeing what the sales were when I was approached by one of those high and mighty rich witches. She asked where something was and I told her I didn't work there. She got all huffy and stormed away. I went about my browsing. A few minutes later, here she comes again, this time with an actual store employee in tow saying, "That's her. That's the one that won't help me." The employee, actually a department manager, asked me why I was out of my department, and that I knew better than to not help a customer while approached. She then asked what department I was from. Finally, a chance to speak. I replied, "I sell shoes at," where I was promptly interrupted and given another tongue lashing, all while Rich Witch is sitting there with a smirk on her face. Manager told me to go to the office and wait for her. I turned on my heel and walked my way towards the exit doors instead. She catches up to me and loudly demands to know if I wanted to be fired or if I was going to go to the office. I responded, "I'm going to my office." She said there were no offices in that direction and demanded I turn in my name tag and gather my things. I took my name badge off, handed it to them while saying, "I don't think my district manager is going to like you firing this top-selling store manager from Kinney Shoes." She looked down at the name badge and back up at me, white as a sheet. Manager hands my badge back, mumbled an apology, and scurried away with her embarrassment and this rich witch. There's a lesson in this. Take your name badge off when you're on a break and go to other stores. While at my aunt's funeral, I was wearing my black suit. Hair was looking presentable, but my shoes were two different sizes and brands. Apparently, I looked like I worked at that funeral home. Probably because I was standing off to the side because I only knew 3 out of the 50 people there, including my aunt. Anyway, I was asked at least twice if I worked there or where this thing was by who else, family members I'd never met. They thought it was funny after I told them. I still don't know who they are. I was in Normandy, France at one of the landing beaches and some American tourists thought I was a tour guide. Me, being the kind of person I am, went along with it and started teaching them about the beach's history and telling them good places to visit. I'd only been there for an hour, but I did know the history rather well. I continued talking to them through the landing and taking questions, and then the tour guide turned up. I just laughed and walked away, and they thanked me in a confused manner. I don't think it dawned on them at that precise moment I was a random guy and not a tour guide. This has happened to me more than once. When I was a paramedic, I'd just finished my shift and popped into the grocery store to grab something quick for dinner breakfast. Apparently, an older woman's eyesight was off that day because she thought I worked there. Grocery store employees don't dress at all like a paramedic, but whatever. I helped her load a few frozen chickens into her cart. She thanked me profusely and wanted to get my name so she could tell my manager what a great employee I am. So I gave her the name and number of my supervisor. The next Monday, my supervisor calls me into his office and asked me to explain this voicemail. "Hello, my name is Old Woman. I just wanted to say that you have one of the finest employees in the entire grocery store. He helped me load all the chickens I needed for my potluck into my cart immediately and without hesitation. He was so kind and generous with his time and blah blah blah." His voicemail actually cut her off. The message was so long, So she called back and left a second voicemail just to finish her praise. My supervisor just stared at me. I stared back. We never spoke of it again. I think he was of the opinion that I was moonlighting as some sort of grocery store chicken-loading demigod. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.